In 2014, an Australian woman found out she was having twins. And normally that wouldn't be a story that would make headlines. But when she checked in with her doctors, they were left stunned by what they found. The twins would be neither identical nor fraternal. Instead, they were a stunningly rare set of semi-identical babies. For the Australian mom at the center of this story, her 2014 path to motherhood began in a typical fashion. Her doctors at the Royal Brisbane and Women's Hospital told the BBC that she had become pregnant naturally. And, like most parents, she underwent the usual pregnancy scans to ensure her babies had begun to grow healthily. In most cases, doctors employ an ultrasound scan to examine the womb and ensure all of its parts develop healthily. They also try to identify any potential birth defects or similar issues that could be present. And Professor Nicholas Fisk, the man at the helm of the Australian mom-to-be's care staff, noticed something unusual when during this routine procedure. At first, Fisk said, the woman's pregnancy seemed to be charting a very traditional course. The mother's ultrasound at 6 weeks showed a single placenta and positioning of amniotic sacs that indicated she was expecting identical twins, he told the BBC in February 2019. Then, however, Fisk noticed a single detail on the screen that proved the babies couldn't actually be identical. Parents of multiples will almost always find they're expecting one of two different types of twins, monozygotic or dizygotic. In any pregnancy, sperm fertilizes at least one egg in order to create the zygote cell. Sometimes, this cell will split into two embryos, and, because they come from the same cell, they have the exact same DNA. As such, monozygotic twins tend to appear as identical as their DNA and are of the same gender. In spite of their look-alike features, though, they'll have different fingerprints. That's because as each baby grows in the womb, they feel around their environment and gather unique markings that differentiate the grooves on their digits. Across the planet, approximately 0.3% of births welcome a set of identical twins into the world. Moreover, the likelihood of a woman having look-alike babies is the same everywhere, although that isn't always the case when it comes to dizygotic, or fraternal, twins. Fraternal twins have plenty of different labels, including non-identical twins. Obviously, fraternal pairs do not look alike, and that's because they grow from separate eggs fertilized by different sperm cells. As such, they have their own sets of DNA, just like any other siblings. The twins just happen to share the womb and arrive at the same time. To that end, fraternal twins can still come out as spitting images of one another. That happens with siblings all of the time. Of course, their unique DNA means that they can also look totally different too. And there's the possibility of boy-girl digotic twins, unlike with identical pairs. Interestingly, instances of fraternal twins don't have a universally uniform distribution like identical pairs. Instead, different areas of the planet inexplicably have more dizygotic twins than others. Japan has about 6 sets for every 1,000 deliveries, for example, while areas of India have 15. And in some spots in Central Africa, more than 20 births per 1,000 bring two bouncing, but not genetically identical, babies into the world. On top of those trends, fertility treatments and medications have boosted the number of fraternal twins. Typically, these drugs cause mothers to hyperovulate, which means their bodies emit numerous eggs at once. It's the perfect scenario, then, for more than one embryo to form. And because of this, the number of multiple births, from twins to triplets to quadruplets and beyond, have spiked in the US. With all of this information in mind, it becomes easier to understand why Fisk found himself confused when he performed an ultrasound for the Australian mom-to-be in 2014. He first saw a pair of amniotic sacs, each on the same placenta, a surefire sign that the mom would have identical twins. After that, Fisk told the mom that she'd have to come back for another checkup to determine the sex of her babies. With identical twins, it was safe to assume they'd either be two boys or two girls. But at the mom's 14-week ultrasound, Fisk found himself facing the unexpected. The mom had one boy and one girl on the way, in spite of them growing like monozygotic babies. According to the New York Times, Fisk thought to himself at this moment, it doesn't add up. Eventually, though, he realized that he had overlooked a third twin category, one so rare that there's only one other recorded instance, aside from the Australian mom pregnant in 2014. Fisk discovered that the twins were semi-identical, also known as sesquizygotic. They formed after one egg in their mother's womb was fertilized by separate sperm. Once the egg separated to create two embryos, each baby shared differing amounts of their father's DNA but at 100% of their mom's. Broadly, they are about 3/4 identical, Fisk explained, before adding that such a situation is almost as rare as hen's teeth. That's because in theory such a conception shouldn't be feasible, especially considering the two ways that twins typically form. In both scenarios, one sperm plus one egg equals one baby. When a sperm enters an egg, the membrane locks down to stop any other sperm from getting in, Fisk explained. Even if another sperm got into an egg, you would end up with 3 sets of chromosomes. With so much genetic material, Fisk said, the baby wouldn't survive, but semi-identical twins nonetheless survive because they somehow receive only the amount of genetic information they need. Some of the cells contain the chromosomes from the first sperm while the remaining cells contain chromosomes from the second sperm, Fisk's colleague, Dr. Michael Gabbett, explained to CNN. As such, Gabbett said, this resulted in the twins sharing only a proportion rather than 100% of the same paternal DNA. So, the Royal Brisbane and Women's Hospital embarked on a painstaking examination of each twin's DNA, comparing each of the baby girl's chromosomes to her brother's. In some stretches of the twins' DNA, they share the exact same genetic information. In other parts, though, they were different. This amounted to them sharing approximately 89% of their DNA. And it also made Fisk the first doctor to identify semi-identical twins during their mother's pregnancy. The only other recorded case of semi-identical twins occurred in 2007. In that situation, however, the female twin required medical care because she had what's termed ambiguous genitalia. When doctors examined her genetic code, they realized she and her twin had identical DNA from their mother, but only about 50% of the same code from their father. Neither of the Australian twins had to face this hurdle, though. Indeed, they came into the world healthy and, as Fisk told the New York Times, they continued to thrive. At age 4, they are doing well and meeting their developmental goals, he said. Still, once the Royal Brisbane and Women's Hospital team realized they had this rare set of semi-identical twins on their hands, they couldn't help but wonder how many others existed out there. Sure, there was the 2007 case, but they thought that other twins may have been misidentified, or that their very DNA may not have been chronicled. So, to prove the rarity of the semi-identical twins, the team went on to examine the DNA of close to 1,000 sets of fraternal twins. Fisk described the monumental task to CNN, saying, we needed to confirm the results with really exhaustive studies in multiple labs in multiple states and countries, and with tests involving millions of genetic variants. With all of that research done, the team could be sure of their initial notion, the semi-identical twins they delivered were indeed extremely rare. They shared their findings through the New England Journal of Medicine, and they had to be thorough because, as Fisk acknowledged, we needed to convince rightly skeptical reviewers that this really was robust. As it turned out, the research sparked the interest of other sets of twins, with some 70-year-olds even among those seeking DNA testing. Fisk told the New York Times that he had received numerous emails from those who thought that, maybe, they and their twin had gone through life without knowing they were more than just a fraternal pair. Of course, even with the Royal Brisbane and Women's Hospital team's findings, many questions linger. Dr. Mindy Christensen of the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine said the research may have only scratched the surface of what can happen when twins are conceived. The recent case was detected because the twins were male and female, Christensen told the New York Times. There may be other same-sex twins out there that are also semi-identical. In his research, Fisk did consider this, and yet, his study of almost 1,000 fraternal twins didn't uncover any semi-identical pairs amongst the study group. For Fisk, though, this is all part of the fun of being a researcher in the realm of twins, the many conundrums that he has uncovered and, in some cases, solved. To that end, Fisk said there's still work to be done. Although identical twins seem to be a clear-cut phenomenon, there could be more precision in understanding how they form, he said. As for the semi-identical twins at the center of this breakthrough, meanwhile, their family did not want them to be identified in the media. However, Gabbett could tell ABC that the 4-year-old pair were thriving as of mid-2019. "They look very similar," he said. "They're very cute, and they're doing very well." Of course, these Australian twins weren't the first pair to cause a stir, although most others grab attention for their physical characteristics rather than their genetic information. In 2017, for example, images of twin baby girls Kalani and Jirani Dean caused waves because the sisters looked so different from one another. Their mother, Whitney Meyer, realized it as soon as Kalani came into the world on April 23, 2016. Meyer told Today, "Kalani was as white as can be. I was just in denial, because you know the odds of this?" The new mom was shocked as, although she's white, her boyfriend, Thomas Dean, is black. Dean didn't have the same level of surprise until he saw Kalani's twin sister, Jirani. "I was like, yeah, Kalani's a little light, but I thought maybe babies are that way when they're first born," he said. But then, a couple of minutes later, her sister came out a little darker. Meyer was right to wonder how often such a situation occurs, since most biracial siblings, especially twins, look more similar than Kalani and Jirani did. But scientists still haven't yet figured out all of the ways in which genes dictate a baby's appearance. In short, then, there's no answer yet. Dr. Bryce Mendelsohn, a University of California, San Francisco-based geneticist, further explained on Today how the baby girls could be so different in spite of the fact that they were twins. "The physical traits you can see in a person are just a very small sliver of the genetic diversity across human populations," he said. "A lot of times, we only focus on the things our eyes can see. But what we see is a tiny tip of the iceberg of the actual genetic diversity in everyone," Mendelsohn continued. "When you flip a coin 8 times, sometimes it's going to be heads all 8 times. And it's kind of like that when you have a bunch of genes. They're all randomly shuffling, and you can get all kinds of outcomes." But a scientific explanation didn't necessarily mean that the rest of the world would understand how Kalani and Jirani could look so different and still be twins. As such, Meyer bought the girls a matching wardrobe so they looked alike in that way. "I have to dress them the same because nobody believes that they are twins." "I mean, nobody," she said. But those people did little to discourage Meyer, who saw her biracial daughters as a powerful symbol that we should all love everyone equal, as she put it. "You can't look at one and not love them both. They're the same girl, just different colors," the new mom added. The baby's father, Dean, could understand why people had taken an interest in his daughters. But he also pointed out that their physical features make up only a fraction of who they are. "I hope that a lot of people can see that color really isn't a big thing," Dean said. "What's important is love. Mysterious things can happen and life is a blessing." And 3 years after Kalani and Jirani's story appeared on Today, the girls continued to touch hearts, including their mothers. Meyer posted on Facebook on January 28, 2019, that her daughter's tale had been reshared for Martin Luther King, Jr. Day. "People really did have the pleasure of reading our story and fell in love with them. I'm a proud mother and their daddy is proud too," she wrote.